If you've been calling everything burnout, there's a good chance that you've been treating the wrong thing. Here's a question that changes everything. Is it overwhelm or burnout? Because if you get this wrong, you could be trying solutions that make things worse. Let me show you the difference today. Let's go be brave. Welcome to Deep Work Haven. I am Takia. We focus on clarity and boundaries for women reclaiming direction and self-trust. Most of us use these words like they mean the same thing. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm completely burned out. We throw them around interchangeably whenever we feel out of it. But what I've learned over the years working with teams and supporting women, walking through both myself, they are different conditions. And the path out of each is also different. If you treat overwhelm like burnout, you'll quit things that you should have kept. But treat burnout like overwhelm and you'll continue to try and put out fires while your foundation is crumbling. So let's get very clear today. Stick around because I also have a quick self-diagnostic tool that you might find useful. Burnout versus overwhelm. Overwhelm is situational, burnout is systemic. They feel similar, but they're not the same. Overwhelm is mostly about volume and timing, meaning too many decisions, too many people pulling on you all at once. Moms are probably very clear with that one. Think of it like this. You're a very capable driver, maybe on your morning commute. All of a sudden you hit 4 lanes of traffic and your GPS just stops working for whatever reason. Now, you can drive, but you just need clear directions and maybe fewer lanes, right? So you're capable and functional, but you just have too much coming at you at one time. Some signals for overwhelm might be that rest helps, delegation helps, when you get support, right? You get those other directions, your GPS might start working, fewer lanes. You take something off of your plate, basically, and you feel lighter. Your energy comes back. Think of your overwhelmed brain saying, I need help organizing and prioritizing. Burnout is different. It's what happens when you've been operating from a depleted space across your emotional, mental, and spiritual systems for far too long. Rest doesn't touch it. You can take a break. You can come back from that same break and still feel empty. You're disconnected from what used to matter. Everything irritates you now. And in the medical and occupational world, burnout is linked to chronic stress without adequate recovery. And over time, that same stress is going to warp your hormones, your sleep, and even your immune system. Burnout is saying, ma'am, I cannot work efficiently under these circumstances. Even when the schedule clears, you don't feel better because it's about the system that created the problem. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Overwhelm needs support. Burnout needs a reset. For years, many of us were taught to be capable and dependable and silent about our needs. So we self-managed, we self-sacrificed, and even self-silenced. That's a whole lot of selves. That kind of strength looks admirable, and sometimes it even feels that way. But even the strongest women weren't meant to function unsupported. Needing support isn't a character flaw. It isn't a mutation. It's part of how God designed us. He didn't design us to carry life unsupported. Period. Let me help you identify where you are. Here are some questions you can ask yourself. For overwhelm, you can ask yourself, if I had clear priorities and support, would I feel better? 2, does my energy return after rest or delegation? 2 questions for burnout. Have I been pushing through exhaustion for years? 2, do I feel disconnected from things that used to matter. Just answer those 4 questions honestly. No performance, no guilt, nothing to prove to anyone. If you mislabel burnout as overwhelm, you'll keep trying to organize a system that needs rebuilding. Remember, trying to put out the fires while your foundation is crumbling. You'll try another productivity hack. You'll push through one more season wondering why nothing's working. If you mislabel overwhelm as burnout, you'll end up pulling back from life when you actually just need structure and support. You'll convince yourself you can't handle anything. You'll shrink when you should have just asked for help. And that's why the diagnosis matters. In the next videos, I'm going to show you what that support actually looks like when you're overwhelmed. The systems, the boundaries, the ask for help strategies that work. You're not alone in this. And I'm going to show you what a real reset looks like when you're burned out. Because it's not a bubble bath in a journal. It's deeper than that. But for now, you have one job. That's clarity. Name the right problem. Because trying to fix the wrong thing is what's keeping you exhausted and spinning around in the same place. Name the right problem and the solution stops fighting you. If anything was clarified for you today, go ahead and click this playlist right here. And God willing, I'll see you in the next video. So in the last video, we talked about the difference between burnout and overwhelm. If you realize you're overwhelmed and not burned out, this is the exact video I need you to see. Stick around. Popular belief, overwhelm doesn't mean failing. It means your system needs support. And here's the reframe we're going to start this off with. Overwhelm isn't an emotional problem. It's an architectural problem. In other words, the structure around you needs reinforcement. And we're going to talk about that reinforcement today. Today isn't about fixing your whole life. It's about stabilizing your capacity so that you can think clearly once again. Support isn't self-care as we know it. This conversation is structure. And there's a simple framework that helps here. I can attest it works. 3 beats. Keep it simple. Think externalize, reduce, sequence. We'll take this one piece at a time. We know overwhelm lives in your head. You're overthinking, it's keeping you up at night, it's just looping and looping with no end. So support starts when we can move those things outside of your mind, where you can actually see them. The point is we're making room for clearer thinking. And there's definitely wisdom in unloading your mind before making major decisions. One of the simplest things you can do today is to simply write everything down. Use one system of capture, notebook, phone, etc. And one place, not 5 scattered lists. We're not organizing anything yet. We're just getting it out. That's the mission. Unload the mind. Doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. I know you're moms. I know you're working people, wives, career women. You don't have time to just put off everything, but we can do it temporarily. Support sometimes means fewer lanes, not necessarily better driving. You don't need to do everything better. You just need to do everything less for right now. That can look like pausing one commitment that you have made recently, saying, not this week, maybe next week. Or it can look like reducing decisions temporarily. This is not about quitting. This is not about stopping your life. It's permission to pause. There's a difference. We're going to sequence, not prioritize. So when everything feels urgent, prioritizing doesn't support us very well. However, sequencing can help you because sequencing removes that responsibility of choice. And choice is what exhausts you when you're already overwhelmed. You see the loop there? So here's what sequencing might look like. Taking one next step. That's it. Taking the very next step of whatever it is you're involved in. It might look like linear or vertical movement. Do this, then that. And it will also definitely look like no multitasking. Save that for a different day, a different season. In this moment, you're not deciding what matters most. You're deciding what comes next. This is practical. This is calming. Everything we need right now. And with that, we need to start thinking about boundaries that support us. And we've talked about this before. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about protecting your bandwidth so that you can actually show up and think and operate. It's not about them, it's about us. In this state of overwhelm, or the next time you feel this way, I want you to think about these 3 kinds of boundaries. Time boundaries, which encompass when you're available and when you're not. 2, your energy boundaries. This will involve what drains you and then what needs limits. You need to know those things. Don't say yes to everything. This is not the moment for the yes trap. Then thirdly, decision boundaries. What you'll decide for now, that next step, and then what you can put off, what can wait, what can be delegated even. These supportive boundaries help reduce the overwhelm before it even starts. So this is preventative. Most overwhelming situations are borrowed. What is the word? We own them like they were supposed to be ours. We guard over them like they were our children. It's not ours. We're going to let it go. And we're going to let it go by asking for help. Because most overwhelmed women don't need more discipline. That's not the structure we're talking about. You need to stop doing everything alone. But before you worry, here's some ways to ask for help in a way that actually works for you. Ask for something specific. Not, can you help me? But can you pick up the kids on Tuesday? Can you bring the supplies to the shop tomorrow? And you can keep it short term. You're not trying to create a permanent dependency here. Do you mind this week if you take over the order intakes? Okay, thanks. No over-explaining. You don't owe anyone your entire backstory. We're not talking about context for your short-term request, but you don't need to go into all of your business. Remember, we don't do that. If overwhelm feels constant, debilitating, panic, maybe depression, or any physical symptoms that don't let up, you try the other supports, but these continue. In this case, support can also mean professional care. So we're talking about therapy, medical attention. And these are not weaknesses. This is the wisdom that you need to identify where you are not in alignment, where you need assistance, where you need to ask for help, when you are okay, when you're not. Bottom line, asking for help is a strategy, not a confession. It means you're a human, and even the most capable people were never meant to do everything alone. Humans were designed for support and interdependence, plain and simple. We're not meant to go through this life alone. Okay, so this part is going to help protect you from self-sabotage. When you're overwhelmed, I need you to avoid major life decisions. It is not the moment. It is not the time. Don't quit your job. Don't move across country. Don't blow up your relationships. Avoid identity level conclusions. Identity. So, I'm terrible at this. I just can't get this to work. I can't handle anything. This is not the moment to make those types of judgments on your capabilities, on your capacity. Productivity overhauls. Avoid them. It's not the moment for a whole redesign of your entire ecosystem. You're not in that space, and you need to acknowledge that. It's okay. It's just not that moment. Or an easy way to put it, overwhelm distorts perspective. What's temporary seems so permanent. It makes hard things feel impossible. So delaying some things might actually turn out to be one of the wisest decisions that you make during this time period or during this season in your life. Here's where we are. If support helped, that's your answer. You were overwhelmed, and you leave it at that, and you address that. The burnout versus overwhelm video, I have it linked below. The video is also included in this playlist here. Remember, stabilize first, then decide. God willing, I'll see you in the next video. This video is for the woman that tried the support and still feels depleted. Yes, this one is for you. In the last video, we talked about overwhelm and how support can be used to stabilize it. But today is different. Before we go further, one important note. If what you're experiencing includes persistent anxiety, depression, brain fog, sleep deprivation, or any physical symptoms that don't improve, seeking medical or professional care is not a failure of faith or strength. It's a part of responsible care. Burnout isn't just tiredness. It's not you are having a bad week. You are just being busy. Burnout is what happens when your system has been overextended for a long period of time without restoration, acknowledgement, or relief. You wake up already tired. Rest doesn't refresh you. You feel strangely detached from the things that you used to really care about. Small decisions feel heavy. You're functioning, but you're flat, sort of numb. You get irritable over nothing. You feel guilty afterwards. You fantasize about disappearing off to some quiet, secluded space, maybe a mountain, maybe a cabin or an island. If that feels familiar to you, then you're no longer in an overwhelmed state. This is a capacity injury, and your system is asking for a reset. Support helps alleviate overwhelm because it's about managing a load. Burnout, on the other hand, is about managing loss. Loss of energy, loss of meaning and connectivity, maybe even loss of internal safety. Maybe you're now an empty nester and your children have all grown up and left the home. You finally received that promotion you've really been working on for a long time. Or maybe you just ended a very toxic situation and you thought you'd feel relief once you reach that point, but instead you feel nothing. Burnout doesn't care about the fact that your crisis is over. The emptiness you're feeling right now is about response to years of chronic strain and neglect. And something we don't say out loud, maybe enough, is while you were holding it all together, your body was in a survival state running on pure adrenaline, willpower, and belief that the relief was going to come at some point in time. But when the external pressure finally did lift and you were supposed to feel this freeness and relief, it was your body who was finally feeling free enough and safe enough to actually show you the truth that you've been empty for a long time. You wouldn't believe it, but burnout shows up after things get better. And because all of these things are good changes, family going off to start their lives, promotion, etc., because you're supposed to be happy now, you don't actually permit yourself to accept and grieve what it cost you to get there. You don't grieve the years you pushed past your capacity. You don't grieve the parts of you that went quiet just to survive. You don't grieve the version of you that carried everyone else, but no one carried you. That unacknowledged grief is one of the sneaky and quiet drivers of burnout. And here's a part I do not want you to miss. Many of us do not recognize this. If you try to push through burnout the same way you push through survival, you will not heal. You will harden. And that's why this reset looks different. We believe that hardship is never meant to be endless. Surely with the difficulty comes the ease. Human beings are not designed to move from crisis straight back into productivity. There are pauses and mercy woven into endurance. There's a necessary in between. Think of it as a God-given recalibration. And burnout isn't a spiritual failure, just in case you were thinking it. It's often a sign that you honored responsibility longer than your body could handle it alone. A burnout reset is not a makeover. It's not a reinvention. And it's definitely not a productivity upgrade. A reset is a reduction in the demands on your life and a restoration of capacity. So what does that look like? Lower the baseline. Fewer expectations, less output, more margin. It looks like restoring before redeciding. So no major life choices again. No identity conclusions. No what's wrong with me spirals. None of that. And it also looks like rebuilding from truth and not guilt. So, what's sustainable for me right now? What season am I actually in right now? What is your body signaling and not what your ego wants? This is important because burnout distorts perception. Everything feels heavier, everything feels more permanent than it really is. And you don't need to seek answers right now. You just need restoration first. If support didn't touch what you were experiencing, it doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It means you've crossed into burnout. And burnout is not the end of your capacity. It's a signal that you probably need to rebuild it differently. What I need you to focus on is stabilize, restore, then re-enter. Take a look at this playlist here. It has all of the burnout and overwhelm videos. Move through them at your own pace. God willing, I'll see you there. If you're feeling that antsy pressure to make a decision right now, I need you to stop. Because I want to talk about that moment right after you realize you're burned out, where the panic doesn't go away, but it just gets quieter. And by panic, I don't mean a frantic panic. I mean that pressure to move, get going, giving you that feeling, I don't want to fall behind. That pressure. That's the panic. It stops yelling and being noisy, and it just starts negotiating with you. You start telling yourself that you need to be responsible. It even gives you that feeling that you are showing good faith with that responsibility talk. Like, okay, I need to figure this out. I am capable. I know what I'm doing. I need to get this together. When you decide too fast after burnout, you're not choosing clarity at that moment. You're choosing relief. You just want to make it stop. Who wants to feel discomfort, right? No one. But relief is not the same as direction. For anyone who spent years and decades not listening to their body, not listening to their spirit, not listening at all to what they're trying to tell you, you measured yourself by worth. You measured your worth by the progress that you've made. That quiet pressure can feel more dangerous than the burnout itself. So just pause for a second. Because the problem right now isn't that you don't know what to do, it's that you don't trust what you're hearing being said inside. You don't trust the stutter step, hesitation. You don't really trust the feeling of relief that you're feeling when anything has been taken off your plate. You know, you're skeptical about it. Because at this point, even the relief feels a little selfish, right? I know. I'm not saying that it's a crazy thought, because for a long time, hesitation wasn't even something that you could afford to do. Listening to what was happening on the inside wasn't practical for the types of situations that you found yourself in. You learned to keep moving no matter what because it was necessary, and who else was going to do it? However, that same skill that kept you going stopped keeping you whole and complete. For a lot of us, urgency doesn't look or sound like what we typically think of or envision when we think about panic. It sounds more like, I do not have time for this to be happening in my life right now. But most of the time, that fear isn't really about time. It's about who you think you are. It's about identity. Who am I if I can't make progress or contribute? Who am I if I pause and nothing is there to replace what I was doing, what I've been holding together this whole time? So what do? We rush back into productivity. And your faith doesn't ask for you to rush clarity. It asks that you trust God enough to know that He doesn't waste moments, including this one that you're in. If He designed your body with innate signals, then ignoring them is not discipline, it's distrust. And surrendering to the idea doesn't mean that you're undisciplined. It doesn't mean you need to stop everything. But you do need to let go of the idea that forcing things is going to make your direction clearer. And of course, that's going to be challenging when you've considered doing all of that as your responsibility. After burnout, everything in you starts making noise. It starts talking. And the mistake we make is that we think that the loudest of them is the direction. And here's what it might sound like. Other women are moving forward. Why am I still stuck? I'm sure they've gone through this, they've gotten over it, and they've moved on. Guilt shows up to the party far earlier than you anticipate or realize before you've even decided anything. Signals sound a little different. It shows up as relief after you've gotten some things removed from your plate. Or maybe it even shows up in your life as a quiet heaviness after maybe you agreed to something. Looks good on the outside, but really you should have probably passed on it. What you won't feel is rush. Listening to that internal signal, it's not going to rush you. Noise, that will rush you. That chatter, that will rush you. And for me, that probably was the hardest part. It was coming to the realization that my ambition was sounding like responsibility. I wasn't listening to the truth that was being spoken inside me. I wasn't listening to what God was trying to tell me through what was happening. I was listening for the reassurance that I wasn't falling behind. I'm from that camp, the I don't want to fall behind camp that I spoke of earlier. That's where I was. It's hard to break those long-term habits that your body has acquired after so long. But every single time I chose to speed up instead of stepping back and listening, it did not go well. It wasn't progress. I wasn't making progress. And I was just causing myself more confusion. So that's when I figured out, okay, what you are doing is not helping you. You need a different plan. That's what made me stop and actually pay attention to the inner voice, the inner trust, being in alignment with God, and what is my body and soul really trying to steer me toward. That's really the step for this part of that is stop asking yourself, what should you do? In fact, this week, stop asking yourself, what should you do? Instead, just step back and start noticing, listening, paying attention to what feels heavy when you say yes, what feels lighter when you say no. How's your body responding to those situations? Clarity doesn't usually show up in the moment. It shows up in the aftermath of it. So no fixing, no deciding, just paying attention. Let go of the idea that you're behind or off schedule. This season is about learning to listen again. And that requires honesty more than speed. Trust, that inner trust, it rebuilds gradually. It comes back when we stop forcing the answers. It has its own time. The Creator's timing is so much better than your rush. This be a week for listening and not deciding. Check out these videos right here. God willing, I'll see you in the next one.